Time. Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. The colonial La Republic du Cameroon's government is bent on destroying the custom and traditions of the peoples of southern Cameroon's Amazonia. The culture of the people of southern Cameroon is the only institution with still some originalities after the colonial La Republic's government destroyed other institutions like education. Not only have the Bears reduced the custodians of the tradition of the Amazonian people to mere auxiliaries to his colonial administration, he now wants to be the one to decide on becoming a fawn, hijacking the position of kingmakers. The colonial senior divisional officer for Manchum has in a release called on those aspiring to mount the thrones as the new fawns of Esu to drop their applications at his office. We wonder what this is really. The colonial SDO, is he now the one launching a recruit to fit a traditional vacant position? Meanwhile, surrogates at the local level have no power or means to initiate any developmental project without it being sanctioned by the colonial central administration in Yaoundé. A republic who preaches decentralization and the devolution of power to locals collectively, usually only well crafted on paper, has displayed another ironic stunt. We'll look deeply into this mystery in the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. But first, let's get the prime headlines.
Right here are the prime headlines for today. Colonial Tikodi evades responsibility, punishes bike riders. Tonight, Menjum Colonial SDO hijacks the role of kingmakers in Esu village. And on the foreign scene, China declares support for massive BRICS expansion as countries push to challenge the US dollar. On the African scene, we will bring you some highlights from Sudan. And in sports, Karim Benzema signs 3-year deal with Saudi champions. Now let's get the news in detail.
Make ABC a leader and a real war horse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock, 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amba TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian / African movies, global politics, ABC Amba News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amba News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tar Paddy King, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG, and People of Ambazonia's Position, the Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASCE. Health is Wealth, Health Education and Awareness within the Ambazonian Community with Dr. Yaya. Liberation Prayer, an intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Amba. Our Freedom, spiritual awareness and education for the Ambazonian community with Pastor Victor Amba and Pastor Commando. Church and Politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando. The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey. Our Amber History, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando. Appointment on community building, education on patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima. Ethics for an Emerging Nation, watchdog of basic principles and morals of a nation at war with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amba Focus, only on ABC Amba Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambatv.com/subscribe.
The colonial La République du Cameroon administration is what you can call confused in recent times. They preach decentralization and devaluation of power to local collectivity, which is only well crafted on paper, if there is even any. While in reality, those surrogates at the local have no power or means to initiate any developmental project without it being sanctioned by the colonial central administration in Yaoundé. There is this dilapidated bridge leading to Tico General Hospital in the Atlantic zone of Amazonia. The population has time without number pleaded with La République du Cameroon colonial local authorities to do some rehabilitation works on this bridge that they consider a death trap. You won't believe the type of reaction they got from the colonial DO of Tico. Meanwhile, it's another Monday, another ghost town day. Well, let's start tonight's briefing this way. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, Ongi. Good evening, Ambazonians. Well, while asked the DO, instead of the representative of the dictator, Paul Biya, to mobilize funds for the rehabilitation of the bridge, he went ahead to ban bike riders from using the bridge without making available an alternative road. Therefore, the DO has no point in his agenda to better the lives of the people, but to instead punish and increase their misery. After all, the La République du Cameroon's plans to impoverish Ambazonians and make the people of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonians miserable. The colonial divisional officer for Tico subdivision of Buikame Kawa Armstrong has confirmed that the colonial La République's government would rather punish the population than perform its constitutional duties. Why place a ban on the circulation of bikes on the bridge rather than mobilize the construction of the bridge?
3 persons narrowly escaped death after falling from a dilapidated bridge on the way leading to the Tico General Hospital in the Atlantic zone of Amazonia. An eyewitness recounts that the three victims were crossing their dilapidated bridge when their bike slid on the broken wood. The victims fell from the bridge, leaving them seriously injured. They were rushed to the hospital for treatment.
Well, the fear and sadness in the hearts of patients and inhabitants of General Hospital Layout Chico are alarming due to the very poor and bad nature of the bridge that leads to the hospital and mortuary. According to the source, the wood used on the bridge is held with rubbers, while some are broken. She further revealed that the bridge has become a point of repentance as people cry out to God to save their souls before crossing the bridge.
The locals of Chico keep calling on the colonial government to ameliorate the dilapidated bridge, which now stands as a death trap for many. The colonial divisional officer for Chico subdivision, Vo Bukeme Kawa Armstrong, has confirmed that the Colonial Republic of Cameroon's government would rather punish the population than perform its constitutional duties. The colonial DO did this in his reaction to the recent accident that nearly claimed the lives of three people as a result of the dilapidated nature of the bridge linking Tico Town to the Drake Street hospitals.
So instead of proffering a solution to the problem by constructing a workable bridge to meet the people's demand, the colonial administrator felt the right decision was to ban commercial motorcycle riders from using the bridge to access the Tico District Hospital. The information is contained in a communique signed by Vo Bukame Kawa Armstrong, the colonial civil administrator for the Tico local government area, Fako County. According to the colonial administrator, the move aims at avoiding the risk posed by a dilapidated bridge linking Tico town and the district hospital. The Colonial DO said in the release, with effect from the date of signature of the present decision, the bridge linking Tico Town to the Tico District Hospital layout is hereby temporarily closed to all bike riders owing to its dilapidated state and potential risk. Only pedestrians shall be permitted to venture at the risk crossing the said bridge.
While the colonial divisional officer tasked the terrorist forces of law and order and their traditional administration to ensure the strict implementation of the said order. The banning of commercial motorcycles, which provide one of the fastest means of public transport for locals who seek to access the hospital, and the failing to provide an alternative. The colonial DO has just provided a sickening plaster solution.
Such a temporary and inadequate approach to a serious problem goes contrary to sections of the Constitution that stipulate that the duty of regional and local authorities shall be to promote the economic, social, health, educational, cultural, and sports development. This decision, which shifts the responsibility to the bike riders and pedestrians, raises fundamental questions as to what the function of the local administration is if it cannot ensure the safety and security of the population.
All right, moving on, the Colonial Republic of Cameroon's government is bent on destroying the custom and traditions of the people of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. The culture of the people of the Southern Cameroons is the only institution with still some originalities after the Colonial Republic of Cameroon's government destroyed other institutions like education. Not only have the BS reduced the custodians of the tradition of the Ambazonian people to mere auxiliaries to his colonial administration, he now wants to be their one to decide on becoming a fawn, hijacking the position of kingmakers.
Well, the Colonial Senior Divisional Officer for Menchum has in a release called on those aspiring to mount the throne as the new fawn of Esu to drop their applications at his office. Is this not something really weird for the kingmaker to be decided by the presidential seat? The colonial SDO is the one now launching a recruit to fit a traditional vacant position. This is indeed a slap to the faces of the kingmakers.
Kingmakers of Eshu, a locality in Menchum County, are still recovering from the arrows they released of the colonial SDO of Menchum, who has been shot on their institution. The colonial senior divisional officer for Menchum, Abdullahi Alio, has called on all those eligible to be the next phone officer to drop their applications in his office for scrutiny. This was the object of a release signed by Abdullahi Aliu, the Colonial Senior Divisional Officer for Menchum.
Well, Abdullah Aliyu called on the kingmakers and notables of Esu village for a sense of a responsibility to facilitate the process of putting a new chief hitch-free. He therefore informs prospective candidates to the throne of Esu to file their candidacy in his office for the arrangement of consultative talks at the palace of Esu, which he shall personally preside over. On March 9th, after he called for this meeting in 2022, Fonkum Achol II of Esu was attacked and killed alongside his first wife by unknown gunmen. The throne had since then remained vacant. Demands by villagers for an investigation to bring perpetrators to book have yielded no fruit as always.
Well, some villagers say no one shall occupy the throne until the Colonial Republic of Cameroon's governments shield the light of the circumstances leading to the murder of the late monarch. Here is a reaction Elangui Joseph gave to the release of the Colonial SDO for Menchum County in what he titles Menchum Colonial and Genocidal Administrator ignores the role of the kingmakers and calls on all interested candidates to apply for the post of the Fon of Esu village. Well, in that he writes, how many times his comrade warned Ambazonians that if we don't fight for an independent homeland for our children, colonial and genocidal French Cameroon will destroy our culture, dethrone even our village chiefs and fonts and appoint their own, including their own francophones.
Well, he goes on to write, here is the Colonial SDO for Menchum County requesting applications from any interested persons to apply for the position of the Fon of Esu village, ignoring the traditions of the people that overpowers and that empowers the village kingmakers, consult with the ancestors by performing some traditional rite, then proceed to choose a new fund for the village and present to the people and later to the colonial administration. He says this is kind of enslavement under colonial and genocidal French Cameroon that brainwashed and enslaved Anglophone enablers, traitors, and the Canadian sellouts want our people to be subjected to in their own homeland, he writes.
All right, let's see this video.
Papa them, I did throw a salute for all man. Today, na June 12, 2023. Na me UN. I don't wake up for up. I don't see something where it don't shock me plenty. And we know, we don't always tell with people them say, if we not stand up for we right, for our own identity, La Republic, if we wake up, it can't impose your will on top with people. The one can take with land, the one can take with villages them, the one can put new chiefs them, poor people where they would control, we take everything. I don't see newspaper where they call and say they post. It all talks a problem there for whom? For Menchum. Because divisional officer for the it all talks say me people them any person whether na brother man na stranger or na who may can give application because he want put new chief for some village they call and say rana issue for the when I see we on way where they report chiefs them for them, I say we get a royal family and now kingmakers them they report chiefs them. How come now divisional officer and when a stranger come now you can't stand now for the impose for put person way it will work for the CPDM, it will work for the interest of La Republic for destroy all we villages them. Now waiting when I go for Siam for you and I say time they correct for all the villages them, for all the chiefs them, make they stand strong because when they start for one place so now say they will go for everywhere, So and you the chiefs them, how when I go resist? When a villagers them, how I will resist this kind of thing if they come? If they don't use some corrupt elites, they go sell out for La Republic. They use some corrupt elites. They tell fighters them, say me they go for DDR center. They don't carry them, go lock them for DDR center, or they kill them and they do whatsoever.
Allez dans leur chantier, vous connaissez les chantiers. Mais la route d'une gomme, vous n'avez pas calé. Sauf si vous me prouvez le contraire. tu ignores là où leur chantier se trouve là-bas, va au chantier. Mais ne parle pas d'Odingom là. Ne parle pas. Vous n'avez pas qualité mindset. Mais ça, je suis déçu de vous.
Now, when the stranger he come for impose any will on top you, we not good there for you for resist. I remember that way will be small. Some SDO, if you want pass for with village for go do some illegal activity for some neighboring quarter. Man, begin them be there for village. Your young begin them. It not take 10 minutes. They can stick them. The block road. They can stick them. They block road for them. And that deal, it not be passed. When I see them for here, now I go to woman this. When a woman, when I go to woman, when a chief, divisional officer, you know, I mean that woman, you don't carry you people, village people, and they go block road. Because they say Cameroon government don't can go record their timber, cut their firewood, they never pay the money. So if block road say no motor, no they pass. They go call Dio can we gendarme them. Dio want talk, it tell Dio say you know the pass. They Dio talk say if be boss, it tell Dio say no, you know be boss. He say you be you collaborator. He say you be Dio, you be if being a chef de village. And they make us so what happen? They Dio to a surrender. When I see him, we go for Douala again, another chief a day for day. Divisional officer don't go. If you want try for impose for put a new chief for day. That chief where he did for day or the kingmaker, he talks in a lie, you know if he waka. Then you know if he waka, say they know who be their chief. So you know if you can impose somebody on top of them. When they happen, now from there where they do to infect, they start the shout for day, they shout. When I'm looking for this video for here when I go see them. When I see how they do the shout for day.
Vous êtes des bastards. Je suis Bassa, les Bassa sont les premiers. Non, vous êtes originaire de Lyon et que les gens les achètent. C'est vous là-bas, c'est vous qui le dites. Oui, je les achète. Il n'y aura pas de discussion entre vous et moi. Monsieur, je vous ai donné la parole et vous avez parlé et je suis en train de parler.
Then when I go for another village, this for a window site, they don't move divisional officer, senior divisional officer will be there, they will be being a window man. They move it, they transfer it, and then they send some one, different one for them. I don't know what Anglophone on a war. So he don't come now. He say he want make he call all the villages, the chiefs them. Say me, oh man, they come here, they can't welcome the new deal. Me, they can't welcome me. He don't go shit up for day, shit up for day. People are not come them. The whole village, no man, no pass. The chiefs the way they be there for the village, they be there for camp. 19 chiefs them. They say the man talk not chief, not chief that deny them for camp. Then some man talk say one chief is sick, the other one is sick. So he talk now say this because the people say why they change their village begin. They can't put a foreigner. Now he will come for day, he carry shame, he go. He say he will go back. Anytime when I will be ready, say we can't talk for now. He will can't talk.
Vous bloquez vos populations. Vous-même, les chefs d'État, chefs bourgs. S'ils ne sont pas venus, qu'est-ce qu'il peut justifier? C'est vous le doyen. C'est à vous qui pose la question.
When I see how people and they stand for their ground. Under normal circumstances for Anglo-Saxon culture, governor na only begin for the place it be. Governor Dio na begin for the place it be. If I thought Dio would but I know say na governor they put them governor and mayors them. But you will see la republic they will go carry na francophone them can put them for governor for southwest, put them for governor for northwest. Now they come, they don't know them, know nothing about our own culture, about our own kind thing them. So now they can take you land now they can to do everything for impose their own people on top of us. So now why that will tell on people they say on get for stand up for on a right. Otherwise we want to call one day so now instead being a stranger as them for republic people them. So at time when I plenty make we stand strong, we support people them.
Okay.
Because they chiefs them, make on a whole on a civilian population, including the young boys them fine. Because when these foreigners they come for the impose this thing them, if you not get population for your back or stand for your back for defend you, they will overpower you. Time on a plenty. Now may you end.
In Africa, let's go back to the war in Sudan. Authorities in war-hit Sudan have declared the head of the United Nations mission in the country, Volker Perthes, persona non grata, 2 weeks after the army chief accused him of inflaming the conflict and called for his removal. The government of the Republic of Sudan has notified the Secretary General of the United Nations that it has declared Mr. Volker Perthes persona non grata as of today. Sudan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said in a statement on Thursday. Burhan had previously expressed his disapproval of this particular envoy.
Well, the United Nations replying to this said on Friday that UN personnel cannot be made persona non grata after Sudan declared UN Special Envoy to Sudan, Volker Perthes, unwelcome in the country. Sudan's army, led by General Abdel Fattah el-Burhan and the country's paramilitary rapid support forces, began fighting 8 weeks ago, sparking a major humanitarian crisis. They agreed a nationwide 24-hour ceasefire from Saturday morning, U.S. and Saudi Arabian mediators said on Friday.
Now, the Secretary General recalls that the doctrine of the persona non grata is not applicable to or in respect of United Nations personnel, and its invocation is contrary to the obligation of state under the Charter of the United Nations, UN spokesman Stefan Dujarric said on Friday, adding that protest is currently in Addis Ababa. Amidst the raging war, our spotlight somehow comes to one person that just might be more to the inflaming the conflict that he has been accused of, that warranted the government of the Republic of Sudan to declare a non grata to this one UN envoy. More to this we'll bring to you as it unfolds.
On the foreign scene, let's do the BRICS summit. China says it's fully backing a major expansion of the global economic alliance known as BRICS. The country is ready to bring more like-minded partners into BRICS, which currently consists of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Well, it says Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Mao Ning. The state-backed outlet China Daily says Ning made a statement while commenting on reports that Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is pushing to add Venezuela to the group. As an important platform for cooperation among emerging markets and developing countries, BRICS said it's committed to upholding multilateralism, vigorously advancing the reform of the global governance system, and increasing the representation and emerging markets as well as developing countries.
Now, talking about emerging markets, Jim Rickards, an economist and the author of Currency Wars, has predicted the unveiling of a new BRICS currency, stating that it could weaken the role of the dollar in global payment and ultimately displace the US dollar as the leading payment currency and reserve currency, emphasizing that the process by which this will happen is unprecedented and the world is unprepared for this geopolitical shockwave. He noted that the BRICS Plus presents a realistic effort to de-dollarize global payments and eventually global reserves. On August 22nd, about 2.5 months from today, the most significant development on international finance since 1971 will be unveiled. Ricardo wrote, elaborating, it involves the rollout of a major new currency that could weaken the role of the dollar in global payment and ultimately displace the US dollar as the leading payment currency and reserve currency. It could happen in just a few years, he says.
Well, Ricard stressed that by every measure population, landmass, energy output, GDP, food output, and nuclear weapons, BRICS is not just another multilateral debate in society. They are substantial and credible alternative to Western hegemony. BRICS acting together is one pole of a new multipolar or even bipolar world. He further explained that in all likelihood, the new BRICS currency would not be available in the form of paper notes for use in everyday transaction.
Now, it will be a digital currency on a permissioned ledger maintained by a new BRICS financial institution with encrypted message traffic to record payments due or owing by participating parties. He clarified that this new currency will not be a cryptocurrency because it is not decentralized, not maintained on a blockchain, and not open to all parties without approval. Based on the impracticality of commodity baskets as uniform stores of values, it appears likely that the new BRICS Plus currency will be linked to a weight of gold. This plays to the strength of BRICS members Russia and China, who are the two largest gold producers in the world and are ranked 6th and 7th respectively amongst the 100 nations with gold reserves, he stressed.
Well, he has gone ahead to predict that it will be one BRICS B to $2. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Peter Choch once said that the day the dollar will fall, that is the day the world will have peace. Well, let's wait and see. BRICS has made waves this year amid reports that the bloc is considering whether to launch its own gold-backed currency in an attempt to challenge the US dollar status as the world's reserve currency. The next BRICS summit is set for August in South Africa, and members say they will discuss an expansion, although it's not clear whether talks on a common currency are on the agenda. Coming up next is sports. All right, and in sports tonight, a lot is happening. Gab Ellison will bring it up first.
Latest world sports. Football. Karim Benzema signs 3-year deal with Saudi champions Al Ittihad. The former Real Madrid forward Karim Benzema has signed a deal to join Saudi Arabia's Al Ittihad football club on a 3-year deal, according to the club. The announcement on Tuesday comes a day after the Gulf Kingdom revealed plans to privatize its biggest football clubs in a bid to increase revenue and attract big-name players. Without disclosing details of the deal or Benzema's salary, the club said in a statement that Benzema had undergone a medical examination and completed the signing in Madrid on Monday. "I am excited to experience a new football league in a different country," Benzema was quoted as saying in a club statement. "I have been fortunate to achieve amazing things in my career and achieve everything I can in Spain and Europe. It now feels the time is right for a new challenge and project," the Ballon d'Or holder said. The 35-year-old Frenchman completed the move from the Spanish League to the Saudi Pro League 2 days after playing his last game for Real Madrid. He joins his former Real Madrid teammate Cristiano Ronaldo in the Saudi Pro League after the 5-time World Player of the Year moved to Al Nassr from Manchester United following last year's World Cup. Al Ittihad has an amazing history, incredibly passionate fans, and big ambitions in football to be a force in Asia after winning the league, the former France international said, referring to his new club's 9th Saudi League title. Cricket. The Ashes. Moeen Ali added to England's squad after Jack Leach injury. All-rounder Moeen Ali has come out of Test retirement to join the England squad for the first 2 of the 5 Ashes Tests against Australia. Moeen replaces spinner Jack Leach, who misses the series after suffering a stress fracture in his back. He reversed his decision after being approached by England captain Ben Stokes and coach Brandon McCullum. The 35-year-old said he found the Test format really difficult to get into when he retired in September 2021. Rob Key, managing director of England men's cricket, said, "We reached out to Mo early this week about returning to Test cricket and having a couple of days to reflect. Mo is excited to join the squad and play Test cricket again. His vast experience along with his all-round ability will benefit our Ashes campaign. We wish Mo and the rest of the squad well for the Ashes campaign." Moeen, who will turn 36 during the first Test at Edgbaston, has played 64 Tests for England, scoring 2,914 runs and taking 195 wickets. The off-spinner has a mixed record against Australia, taking 20 wickets in 11 Tests at an average of 64.65 and scoring 476 runs at 25.05. Moeen may come straight into the team for Leach and will add depth to England's batting, with him likely to bat at 8. Stokes and McCullum also have the option of going with an all-pace attack for Edgbaston, with the Test beginning on 16 June. England's squad for the first 2 Ashes Tests Ben Stokes, Captain, Moeen Ali, James Anderson, Jonathan, Bearstor, Stuart Broad, Harry Brook, Zach Crowley, Ben Dockett, Dan Lawrence, Oli Pope, Matthew Potts, Oli Robinson, Joe Root, Josh Tong, Chris Wokes, Mark Wood. Golf. PGA Tour announces short reconciliation with Saudi-backed breakaway Leave Golf. The US-based PGA Tour is set to partner with a Saudi-backed breakaway Leave Golf, ending a feud that has dogged the men's professional game for the past year. The PGA Tour made the shock announcement on Tuesday, saying a new partnership with the Leave and the DP World Tour will unify the game of golf. The parties have signed an agreement that combines PIF's golf-related commercial businesses and rights, including Leave Golf, with the commercial businesses and rights of the PGA Tour and DP World Tour, into a new, collectively owned for-profit entity. The statement read, PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan, speaking after what he described as a heated meeting with golfers, told reporters at the Canadian Open in Toronto that the Tour and Leave Golf were better off together, that we were fighting or apart. When asked what changed his position on the PGA Tour accepting the money from Saudi Arabia, I recognize that people are going to call me a hypocrite. Anytime I said anything, I said it with the information that I had at that moment, and I said it based on someone that's trying to compete for the PGA Tour and our players. A spokesperson for the PGA Tour told CNN that the new relationship between the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, formerly known as the European Tour, and Leave Golf is not a merger, but a partnership through creation of a new commercial entity. Throughout the interview, the commissioner repeatedly referred to the new relationship as a framework agreement that resulted from 7 weeks of talks. A great day in global golf for players and fans alike. The journey continues. Leave Golf CEO and two-time major winner Greg Norman tweeted, "The Leave Golf Series, backed by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, PIF, officially launched in June 2022, with participating players subsequently barred from competing in PGA Tour events. The PIF is a sovereign wealth fund chaired by Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, known by his initials MBS. Bin Salman is the man the US intelligence report names as responsible for approving the operation that led to the 2018 murder of journalist Jalman Khashoggi. Bin Salman has denied involvement in Khashoggi's killing. According to the US State Department, the kingdom's dismal human rights record includes free speech restrictions, torture political prisoners, and enforced disappearances. Officials at the daily White House news conference said they had no comment on the news. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
Thank you so much, Gab Ellison, for that sports report. And with that report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's take a look at our major stories.
And Undaunted tonight, we brought to you how the Colonial Tico DO evades responsibility, punishing bike riders. We also brought to you Mentrum Colonial SDO hijacking the role of kingmakers in Esu village.
Also tonight, we told you that China has declared support for massive BRICS expansion as countries push to challenge the US dollars. And Karim Benzema signs 3-year deal with Saudi champions. And that was it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing to the news on Church Stories. On behalf of Michael Anchor, Smart, and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.